In the meantime here, wanted to make sure we got some of those results in. Let's bring to the conversation my colleague, Austin Westfall, and someone who we've relied on all year, political analyst Brian Sobel, for his expertise. You guys, thanks for being with us here. Austin, before we get to you, Brian, we're just getting these results in from states like Indiana, Kentucky. You could argue not as consequential as some of the battleground states. Polls will close there in Georgia and North Carolina at the top of the next hour. What are you looking at right now, Brian?
Well, I think we're looking, first of all, at Georgia as kind of the leader to see the results there coming out of Georgia. Obviously, Philadelphia with 19 electoral college votes is huge. We are going to see as the times across the country close the polls where we are on this, but we may get a leaning, Andrew, sooner than later. But you know, in these either highly red states or highly blue states, I don't take too much from that. As an example, in California later when the polls close, 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 54 electoral college votes will go into the Harris ledger because it's an entirely blue state.
Let's talk about the demographic makeup of voters, Brian. What type of people are the people that are going to be swinging this election, possibly?
Well, we're looking at that, or we were looking at that. We want to see how frequently people vote, whether they vote reliably in presidential elections, and whether they lean Dem, lean Republican. Of course, this race has always been about trying to snag some independents, because clearly Harris has her followers and Trump has his followers, and so now you're really playing on the margins here, and it's a matter of people who just couldn't get behind Kamala Harris, who are Dems and decided to vote for Trump, or in the reverse, just could not vote for Donald Trump and just slid over into the Harris camp. But in the middle, 4%, 5% of those independents may very well decide this tonight.
Brian, I wanted to ask you, and this is somewhat of a long-winded question, or maybe the answer will be long-winded. Let's talk about the campaigns themselves. In the last week, or maybe the last weekend, in your view, what did the Trump campaign do right, and what did the Harris campaign do right, and vice versa? What do you think they did wrong?
Well, I think both campaigns really grounded out to the end. They were in a lot of places. They kept hitting these high swing state states to try to secure votes there. I think Donald Trump actually remained somewhat disciplined down the stretch, and Kamala Harris stuck to her message points. I think those are the positives. The negatives are that if you're not a Trump fan or you're not a Harris fan, nothing they said in the last few days will change your mind. Harris didn't really get into specifics through the entire 107 days of her campaign. Donald Trump kept with the same themes that he has talked about: the economy, immigration, these other things, right through to the end. So in the last 7 days, I was waiting for something to kind of move the needle here a little bit. I didn't really see that.
It is very close, Austin.
Yeah, so Brian, we saw, and I was asking Keith about this earlier, we saw Trump making appearances in New Mexico and in Virginia. We saw Vance in New Hampshire over the weekend. We haven't seen Kamala Harris making any appearances in any of these states that we don't consider battleground states. What do you think they're seeing, and what do you think they're relying on?
Okay, I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut everyone off here or interrupt. We're going to be doing this a lot. We do have some of these live events right now. We have some of these election officials, especially in Georgia.